Hey everyone, we're almost at the end of the year and I've made quite a few videos this year, 118 in fact. For many of those I've played a bunch of different video games, and in this video I would like to go over some of my favorites, ranging from really popular titles to niche indie games you may have never heard of. Here is my top 10 PC games I played this year. Before we go there though, we start off with a few honorary mentions, games that deserve at least a shout out. There's Killsquad, the co-op action-packed top-down twin-stick shooter which fully released this year. It packs a real punch, the combat is smooth and satisfying, the missions are bite-sized and ideal for a small playing session, and the game is very reasonably priced. Would recommend. Then another game I really enjoyed, Edge of Eternity, the JRPG made by a French studio. It reminded me a lot of another game on the actual list. While it has some quirky voice acting and sometimes wonky mechanics, overall the devs created a beautiful world, interesting combat, and they managed to recreate that fantasy feeling of adventure games in the late 90s, early 2000s, which is no easy feat. Just for that alone, the game is worth it. I want to mention the Slormancer, a game still in early access, but this is another top-down ARPG twin-stick game that launched this year. It's got a distinctive art style, already significant build diversity, and while it is lacking content to keep you entertained for more than, let's say, 40 hours, it is something to look out for next year. Developed by only 2 people, this game will go the distance, I feel. The last game before we start is Valheim, a game that undoubtedly made it to many lists this year. Together with some people in my Discord, we built an entire Viking village, which felt so good to do. Going on expeditions, exploring the lands, gathering resources. It is truly amazing. Everyone knows this game already though, so I'm leaving it out of the list. Time to start with number 10, Curse of the Dead Gods. This is an indie roguelite ARPG where you are venturing into dangerous temples, getting upgrades along the way, and try to defeat powerful bosses at the end of a run. The game follows the same map structure we know from classics like Slay the Spire and combines it with skill-based combat, not unlike Hades. The combination works wonderfully well. It is a very addictive game, a very challenging game, and during its time in early access, so much content was added. When it finally released early this year, the game was jam-packed with stuff to do. A big recommendation if you enjoy more challenging dungeon crawlers with skill-based combat. Number 9, Forza Horizon 5. I hardly covered this game but played it quite a lot on the PC Game Pass. It runs beautifully on my super ultra wide screen in 32:9 aspect ratio, 1440p, which not many games support even, so that's already a plus. The devs created all these different racing events across Mexico and the environment is just so stunningly beautiful that even driving across the lands in hot cars is reason enough to download this title. Easily the best racing game I've played in years, and I've played almost all of the big ones, believe it or not. Number 8, Encased. This indie game left early access this year, bringing a story-driven post-apocalyptic sci-fi world where strange relics have prompted a bunch of scientists to create a dome around the place where these relics show up. In this dome, you turn up, and in true CRPG style, you can influence the world through subtle and not so subtle actions. Encased is filled with interesting characters, a well-written narrative, great voice acting, tactical turn-based combat, and an adventure you won't soon forget. Number 7, Tainted Grail. This tactical collectible card game features a twisted world in the era of King Arthur. A curious mist called the Weirdness has transformed the world around you into a bunch of mutated monsters, and it's up to you to rebuild the village, which is only protected by a single man here. Through tactical combat using cards, you make your way across the world map, making this a bit of a mix between Slay the Spire combat and King's Bounty world exploration. The whole atmosphere in Tainted Grail, including the magnificent art style and terrifying music, is something you don't get to see very often. A truly unique game and definitely recommended. Number 6, Loop Hero. It seems so simple. You are this little guy caught in a loop, encountering enemies you need to fight, while you can place buildings around that loop to make your life easier or harder. And after completing a loop, you have the option to leave and take your loot or go for another round. It is completely up to you how you influence the loop, which enemies you put on the map, and how challenging you will make it. There are rewards for taking risks, however, because dangerous enemies drop better loot and you need to collect gear to take on the final bosses of these loops. That's how you beat the game, which furthermore features tactical combat, base building, loop influencing, and several playable characters for an infinitely fun experience where you always just want to do one last round. Number 5. The Ascent. I'm aware that the PC version has plenty of issues, but I didn't play at launch, but much later. By then the issues were gone, and what was left was a beautiful, action-packed, interesting narrative in a single world featuring cool weapons, memorable characters, and graphics you don't often see in an ARPG. It gave me cyberpunk vibes all over, which after the bugs were fixed is also a piece of art. I can't wait for the next title of Neon Giant, and in the meantime you can play this on Game Pass. Number 4. Chivalry 2. In terms of pure gameplay fun, as in dropping into a war zone and just going to town with weapons of your choice, I don't think there's anything on the market currently that beats Chivalry 2. The combat in this medieval hack and slasher is some of the best combat ever, with gory, bloody, visceral swings, body parts flying everywhere, extremely amazing sound design, tactical objectives, and a myriad of playstyles that are all viable. This is one of those games where you just can't stop smiling, enjoying the complete mayhem that unfolds before your very eyes. A unique experience, something very few other games can achieve. On to the top 3. Number 3. Timberborn. This city builder is only in early access, but what an amazing game this is. Very relaxing, very cute, very casual. It's my kind of game. You're a bunch of beavers and you have to redirect the available water streams using dams and other constructions to create fertile lands to farm, so you can feed your colony. There are droughts that stop the water from flowing, meaning you need to be creative in your water management. Timberborn combines furry cuteness with solid RTS mechanics, and this is a massive recommendation to anyone remotely enjoying this genre. The full release is going to be amazing, but right now it's already definitely worth a buy. Number 2. Omno. You may have never heard of this, but I played this on PC Game Pass and was mesmerized by how beautiful and serene this indie game is. Made by just one guy in Unreal Engine, this is a true piece of art where you need to seek the light and explore various biomes with your trusty spirit companion. The game doesn't have combat, it does have a few light puzzle elements, but it's mostly about the world design, the music, the creation of all the different elements, and traversing the lands with or on your staff. And number 1. Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate, which I only bought a few days ago. Now, once again, I do realize that for a lot of people this is apparently a hot pile of garbage PC port with Digital Foundry completely demolishing it. I, however, have no issues at all. The game runs completely fine in 120 FPS on my 2080 i7 in HDR. Be warned though, because a lot of people can't run this game properly. Technical issues aside, which I didn't face, here is why this is my number 1. Back in 1997, when I was 12 years old, I played the original Final Fantasy VII on a PlayStation at a friend of mine, and I didn't sleep for 2 nights straight. I played for close to 40 hours in a single run, only stopping for food. To me, in those days, Final Fantasy VII changed the way I looked at games. This wasn't just entertainment like Gran Turismo was, this was something much more. It already started with the first scene where the train enters Midgar and you jump out of the train, and then you would expect a loading screen, but that wasn't there. You could play instantly and move around while the CGI movie was still ongoing. Absolutely revolutionary. That was just the start though. The materia system, which added a lot of depth to turn-based combat, the magnificent summons, the CGI movies which rivaled the ones from Blizzard, complete side areas like the Gold Saucer, which is a game in itself, you can spend 40 hours in that area alone grinding rewards, and of course the weird but captivating storyline with ultimate villain Sephiroth. A true classic in every sense of the word. For me, easily the best game ever made. Nothing even comes close. And now, almost 25 years later, there is the remake, and they could have easily screwed it up, right? But they didn't. Yeah, it's drawn out a lot, and I'm playing 20 hours and barely left the Sector 5 slums. They added a bunch of side quests that don't necessarily add anything to the game, which is fair criticism, but they also turned Final Fantasy VII into a modern RPG without losing any of its original charm, which is a massive achievement. The overall combat feels amazing and is very tactical still while looking flashy at the same time. All of the locations are now in jaw-dropping 3D, including incredible lighting. Revisiting these places that I remember, it's just the best. The characters are like you remembered as well, with excellent voice acting. And the music, oh damn dude, it's still the same songs of course, but completely revamped and remixed and re-recorded. Just being in this world again, walking around, meeting the people, listening to the soundtrack and enjoying the view in Midgar, it doesn't get any better. A perfect conclusion to a pretty crappy year. I hope that despite all the hardships of real life these days, you may find some inspiration from this list. If you have any specific questions about a game, leave a comment below, I'll be happy to help you out. You can join the Discord as well, we're helpful over there, and I'm also curious about your favorite game of the year. Thanks for watching and making it to the end. Love you all, see you soon, bye bye.